We are not just looking at history. We are looking at the blueprint of our entire modern political existence. We are going back over 2,300 years to meet the man who first asked the most dangerous question in history. How should human beings live together? We are talking about Aristotle. He is widely considered the father of political science. While his teacher Plato was busy dreaming of ideal utopias in the clouds, Aristotle kept his feet firmly on the ground. He was a Greek philosopher who lived from 384 to 322 BC, a student of the great Plato, and perhaps even more impressively, the personal teacher of Alexander the Great. Aristotle made a claim that changed everything. He didn't say we form governments just to survive or to make money. He believed that man is by nature a political animal. What does that mean? It means we are hardwired to live in communities. We cannot be fully human in isolation. To understand humanity, we must understand the city-state. This belief led him to author one of the most important books ever written, the Politics. So how do we organize this political animal? Aristotle didn't just guess. He categorized. He looked at the governments of his time and asked two central questions that we still ask today. First, the question of quantity. Who is ruling? Is it one person, a few people, or the many? Second, and more importantly, the question of quality. For whom are they ruling? Are they ruling for the common good, or are they ruling for their own self-interest? When you cross-reference these questions, you get a framework, a 2x3 matrix of government forms. This is brilliant because it distinguishes between virtuous rule and corrupt governance. It acknowledges that a king can be good, but a king can also be a monster. It acknowledges that the people can be free, or they can be a mob. Let's look at this matrix. On the side of the correct forms serving the common good, we have monarchy, aristocracy, and polity. But for every light, there is a shadow. On the side of the deviant forms serving self-interest, we have tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. Yes, you heard that right. Aristotle listed democracy as a bad form of government. Stick around and we will explain why. Let's start at the top of the matrix, the rule by one, monarchy. In Aristotle's view, this is the ideal scenario, provided you can find the right person. The key principles here involve a virtuous king or queen who rules with absolute wisdom and ability. The motivation is critical. A true monarch is motivated solely by the welfare of the people. Think of the exercise of power here like a family. The monarch acts like a caring father, protecting his family, exercising power through law and virtue. It is a relationship built on trust. But what happens when that father figure stops caring about the family and starts caring only about himself? The monarchy decays into the rule by one, tyranny. Tyranny is the corruption of monarchy. Here, the tyrant rules not by law, but by fear and force. The motivation shifts entirely. The tyrant is motivated purely by personal gain, power, and pleasure. Aristotle didn't mince words here. He considered tyranny to be the absolute worst form of government. It is the complete inversion of justice. Now let's widen the circle. What if we have a rule by a few? Ideally, this gives us an aristocracy. Now be careful with this word. In modern times, we think of aristocrats as snobby rich people, but in Greek, aristos means the best. Aristotle envisioned a small group of the most virtuous and educated citizens ruling the state. This is merit-based leadership. It focuses on excellence and the state's success, not wealth alone. It's the idea that the people who know the most and have the best character should be the ones making the decisions. But human nature is tricky. When that small group stops caring about virtue and starts caring about their bank accounts, aristocracy corrupts into oligarchy. Oligarchy is the corruption of aristocracy, where the wealthy rich rule to protect their own fortunes. The qualification for office isn't wisdom or ability anymore. It is property and money. This system exploits the poor to feed the rich. It is a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, for the billionaires. Finally, we arrive at the rule by the many. In its good form, Aristotle calls this a polity. This is essentially a constitutional government. In a polity, the middle class and citizens rule through law and common interest. It is what Aristotle calls balanced governance. It is a brilliant mix of oligarchy and democracy, with checks and balances preventing extremes. It's stable because it relies on the law, not the passions of the moment. But if you remove the law and let the majority do whatever they want, you get the deviant form, democracy. Now, this is shocking to modern ears. But remember, Aristotle viewed this differently. He defined democracy as mob rule by the poor majority. He characterized it as a system where the poor use their voting power to take from the rich to benefit themselves, leading to chaos and lawlessness. To Aristotle, pure democracy wasn't freedom, it was instability and disorder. So we have these 6 forms, but they don't stay static. Aristotle observed that governments naturally decay over time. Why? Because rulers are human. They become selfish, they become greedy, or they allow liberty to become license. There is a specific pattern to this rot. A virtuous monarchy decays into tyranny. A virtuous aristocracy decays into oligarchy. And a virtuous polity decays into democracy through moral corruption. It is a slide from the common good to self-interest. Is there a way to stop this decay? Aristotle believed the answer lay in the social structure of the state. He emphasized the importance of the middle class. Aristotle deeply distrusted the extremes. He found the very rich to be arrogant, believing they were above the law. He found the very poor to be desperate, willing to destroy the law to survive. Both are destabilizing forces. The solution is the middle class. They embody the golden mean, the balance between extremes. They follow reason and law, providing moderation and stability. A state without a strong middle class is doomed to bounce between the tyranny of the rich and the chaos of the poor. Let's deepen our understanding by directly comparing these forms, starting with monarchy versus tyranny. In a monarchy, you have a law-abiding ruler, where subjects obey willingly out of respect and trust. In a tyranny, you have a lawless despot, where subjects obey only out of fear and coercion. One is based on love, the other on terror. Next, look at aristocracy versus oligarchy. Aristocracy is the rule by the best through virtue. They seek honor and excellence for the state. Oligarchy is the rule by the rich through greed. They seek profit and protect personal fortunes. One builds a legacy, the other builds a bank account. Finally, polity versus democracy. A polity is restrained by law. It respects the rights of both the rich and the poor, creating stability. A democracy, in Aristotle's negative sense, is an unrestrained majority tyranny over the minority. It creates instability and disorder. So what should we aim for? Aristotle was a realist. Ideally, yes, a monarchy by a perfect man is best. But Aristotle notes that such virtue is exceedingly rare in practice. You can't build a government waiting for a Superman. Therefore, he argues that the best practicable state, the best one we can actually achieve, is polity. It balances excellence with numbers. It prevents class warfare. It is the safe harbor in the storm of politics. If we fail to maintain this balance, we enter the cycle of regimes. Aristotle saw history moving in a circle. It begins in anarchy. From the chaos, a strong leader emerges, monarchy. The monarch corrupts into tyranny. The best men rise up to overthrow the tyrant, aristocracy. They corrupt into oligarchy. The people rise up against the rich, democracy. The democracy descends into chaos and mob rule, anarchy. And the cycle begins again. This political instability is natural without proper checks and balances. The goal of political science is to figure out how to interrupt this cycle to create stability. What triggers the turn of that wheel? What causes revolution? According to Aristotle, the main cause is inequality. Specifically, it happens when equals are treated unequally or unequals are treated equally. He writes, inferiors revolt in order that they may be equal, while oligarchs rebel to gain more power. When people feel the system is rigged, they burn it down. This practical approach differentiates Aristotle from his teacher. In the debate of Aristotle versus Plato, we see two different worlds. Plato's idealism wanted an ideal philosopher king and focused on utopian, theoretical perfection. Aristotle's empiricism was different. He studied 158 actual Greek city-states empirically. He focused on what works in reality. So how do we stop the revolution? How do we prevent the collapse? Aristotle offers a guide for maintaining stability. First, obey the law even in small matters. The erosion of law starts with small infractions. Second, avoid using office for personal gain. Corruption kills trust. Third, treat excluded classes well. If you alienate a group, you create an enemy. But the most important tool, the role of education. Education is key. We must teach citizens the spirit of the Constitution. If the people do not believe in the system will fail. Education fosters stability and unity within the state. As we look around our world today, the modern relevance of Aristotle is undeniable. His ideas explain why we have constitutions. They explain why we insist on the separation of powers. They explain our fear of populism. The world has changed, technology has advanced, but human nature has remained exactly the same. The ongoing struggle between the rich, oligarchy, and the many, democracy, remains central to modern politics. Aristotle taught us that politics is not a game of power. It is the art of living together. It is about finding the balance, the golden mean that allows us to thrive. The cycle of regimes is always turning, but with wisdom, law, and virtue, perhaps we can keep it steady a little while longer. Thank you for watching.